Yeah.
And if you look at that area, then you can never ever be enough, because there will always be someone having more. And we go out and we look for the answers outside in the next shopping mall, next supermarket, next wherever we can grab something and try to feel happy that way. But happiness comes from the inside. And then it's important to heal this I'm not good enough feeling first before you can even start doing something else. Let's do it.
Okay, great. So today we have our first guest, and her name is Anne Grete Bjørlo. How did I do?
You did well.
calling in from Norway.
Yeah.
So Anne Grete, could you talk a little bit about what you do and that interesting title that you have that you mentioned?
Yeah. I have originally nutrition therapy on top of my library education. So that's where I started out. And then I learned about nutrition therapy for 2 years in the beginning of 2000.
Mhm.
And I also learned something called simplified thought field therapy with advanced questioning techniques. That was later in 2010 to 11. So I was certified thought field therapist in 2011. And then this fall, because I had to stay home so much, then I embarked on a course in cellular health coaching. And from being an empty vase with no energy and no stamina and just waiting for retirement, I'm 65, so in 2 years' time or less now, I can retire. And that was my only get through the last years of work and then retire. And we move to Spain as we have planned to do. And I can sit there with a drink on my veranda looking out on probably the Mediterranean or something. And from there, and through this course where we had to walk the talk, I revived almost. So I found out that there is still some juice in this lady and that I have something to give to the world. And coach was not a good word for me because it was too narrow for my package. So I sat down and thought, what can I be? And then it was just like coming down to me from somewhere, I don't know. But the word educoachapist landed on my table, and I thought, hey, that's great. Sudden, if you Google coachapist, educoachapist now, you will get my hits. Only
Wow,
me in the whole world. So I thought, okay, this is good.
this is
This is
great.
fun. It's fun too because it's emerging in a way of what I have been doing in my life experience, in my new coaching skills. I also did a holistic coaching program on Mind Valley. So all of this comes together because I need to educate people on the why they have to do different things. Because if you understand it, that's when you can really integrate it into your life. If you just do it because somebody tells you to do it, it doesn't have the same impact, you know. So education is an important part of it, and I hope also to make courses after a while with also train the trainers with this tapping technique because it's so useful. Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit more about cell coaching, cellular coaching? Because it's a new term for me. I don't know it. Also, for someone who is new to this.
Yeah, I think it is very new to very many, except for maybe those people who know Dr. Gary Samuelson from working with redox signaling molecules.
Mm.
And Dr. Gary Samuelson, he started a course because he wanted more people to learn about how our cells are affected by everything from nutrition to hydration to exercise to breathing and to sleep. And not only that, but science has also now found out that you can be impacted on your cellular level also by your mind and your thoughts. And it doesn't stop there because emotions play a big role in it as well. And our heart is a center for emotions. Our brain is the center for the thoughts. And then you have the rest of the body that is the physical part of us. So it all works together. And the more we can balance, the better our health will be in total. And this is what is so fascinating, because it brings together all I knew from before with this cellular level that we weren't so aware of earlier. And my studies didn't, my nutrition study didn't talk too much about emotion and mind, and thought field therapy didn't talk about nutrition. So this is why I find it so important to merge those three things. In 2000, I was so exhausted from having stressed around and in northern Norway running my own business, and in periods struggled with things not going my way, so my stress levels were high, and I didn't know much about all these connections by then. And then I learned that there was, I think it was a blood type diet at that time that was one of the things that you could do, Dr. Adamo. And I started that diet, and I saw the great improvement I had in my energy and how I came back to life again from doing that diet. So when I learned that a professor in Norway was starting a nutrition therapy course in Harstad University College, I just knew I had to go there after seeing how diet had changed my stuff. But in this period, I came into this thought field therapy. And I could use all of this on my husband. When I met him, he had just sent change of address to where I lived in a small town in the middle of Norway. Not nowhere, but Norway. And he was working in Oslo, so there were about 3 hours drive between Oslo and where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
And that day, November 1 in 2010, he had sent his change of address to the office that take care of that kind of things in Norway. And then he ended up in the hospital and came home with a severe lung diagnosis. And there were no medication at that time who could help him. It was a genetic condition. And he didn't respond on the medications because all of those were developed for more asthmatic kind of things, and his emphysema was deep down in his lungs.
Oh.
So it didn't work, and they tested a whole lot of medication and nothing worked, and the doctors were so frustrated they had nothing to give him. And he was even told that 80% of people with that diagnosis don't survive their birthday, the 60th birthday.
Wow.
So it was grim aspects. He was 55 at that time. So he came home with that in his luggage, and we sat down and really had to figure out what the hell do we do now. And I remember that he was given the choice by me that either you follow what I want you to do from now on, or you can just go back to Oslo and live there, because I cannot just sit here and watch without doing anything until you are 60 to see if you survive or not.
And how old was he at that time?
He was 55, 56, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, 50, 56, somewhere in that area.
And you already had this thought field therapy.
I was under my certification at the time.
Okay.
Because I did that to help myself out of my own traumas.
Yes.
And then I realized, okay, I needed a guinea pig. So I needed to practice on someone. And okay, so he was willing to do that. And it turned out he had a lot of childhood issues that had never really been taken care of. A lot of anxiety and a lot of feeling less worth than most, and growing up with a father he was scared of and all that kind of thing, drinking in the house, a lot of stuff that he had on his plate. So we did all these tappings on him, and I changed his diet around. and he became better. He moved from stage 4 on the COPD scale up to the stage 3.
Okay.
And that is not supposed to be possible, but it was possible, and we proved it was possible. So he has been really my first and most important client, and he is still alive. And according to the pulmonologist who gave him the genetic diagnosis in March, I think it was in 2011,
Mm-hmm.
and has followed him every year since, he was told now in December that actually you should not be sitting here at all.
Wow.
So you have done a great job. Go home and continue doing that.
Does he know
So
that the doctor knows what your husband is doing and what you
some
do?
of it,
Some of
he
it.
knows some of it, yeah. He doesn't know about the supplement of redox signaling molecules from a bottle. He knows mostly about the diet and the tapping. But it's very difficult to find time in a little consultation to go into deeply, and they are not really curious enough to ask, why are you such an exceptional patient? Why? What are you really doing? Why does it work? So I would like more curiosity from the medical system.
And with this thought field therapy, with tapping, with
Mm.
nutrition, you already knew what kind of results you could do for someone like your
Yeah,
husband,
yeah,
who was diagnosed with a genetic disorder, right?
yeah.
Something that people are used to take for granted, meaning there's no cure for that.
Mm.
This is just my life, my fate, right?
Mm.
Then it probably will work for more of those conditions that we are so used to taking pills for, right?
Mm.
And instead of doing that,
Yeah.
this is such a natural approach. Do you
Yes,
have
but
any
I
other
have to. I
examples?
just I have to say one thing here. Um, this genetic condition is not something that we think, well, it might be able to cure it by mental, emotional, all the things we can do via meditation. I don't know that yet. I always keep that an open thing, because it turns out our genetics are not as set in stone as we have believed for so many years. Many things can actually be changed around if we do all these things on the cellular level to balance everything. Most of our diseases is because we are unbalanced in some ways.
Yes.
So I don't aim at, how can you put it, heal conditions or anything like that that the medicals have put a label on. What I do is more to build the body up to become as well as it can get, and that's something else. And if the body then decide that, okay, now I am in such a balance that I can heal this thing, okay, then your diabetes too, or any other chronic kind of suffering, will maybe leave you. You will still have the diagnosis with your medical system, but you don't feel the problems from it anymore. That's what I can help doing, and it all depends on what you are willing to put in of work. If you're not willing to do the work, then it doesn't work. I think that whenever you go into a very long, stressful period where you have no control or feel you have no control over your life, very often my experience is that those stressful periods when you are grown up, they stem back from similar things in your childhood.
Mm.
The feeling of not being good enough, the feeling of being unworthy. When a child is a child, you are open and vulnerable to the grown-ups around you. And if they say something to you at one particular moment when you are vulnerable, it will be like a dagger in your heart, and you will feel not loved. And that feeling will overshadow a lot more in your life than you may be aware of. So sometimes I have seen with clients in the TFT is that when we can go back to that particular event they really start to tear up and they feel as they felt at that time. And then we can heal that wound. And they can come out of the therapy with a big smile on their face, feeling a weight lift off the luggage, and they can move on. Because all of a sudden, that it's like a thorn in the flesh that festers and becomes inflamed, and you need to get out the thorn to get rid of the inflammation that otherwise will spread to the whole body. That's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah,
And
to
it's so
your
magic to see when that happens. That's what's really driving me now, to try and get people get into this kind of practices much more, because you can actually get to a much better place in life just by doing all these things.
To your opinion, why do it's almost became an epidemic these days? People are thinking they're not enough, they're not good enough. There's
Mm.
just so many of us who are, dreaming of something but afraid to do, or thinking, well, no.
Mm.
And well, one of the reasons, of course, because we compare, and it's just all the information from across the world of these people doing amazing things is so
Mm-hmm.
available to us. We can quickly check, Facebook or Instagram, and we see what these amazing things that people are doing, and we immediately think, well, I would never be able to do that. And we have this nagging feeling that, well, there's so many people that do it better than me. Why would I even try? But
Mm-hmm.
also, this is one of the reasons. And why, to your opinion, why is it that so many of us, are thinking this way?
Huh. That's a very tough question, really. Um, I have been reflecting a bit on it because I grew up in a time when most people didn't have so much. I grew up in a small place in the western part of Norway. As I said, I'm 65 and I grew up in the 50s. I was born in 55, and even to buy a car was difficult at that time because it was restrictions after the war. There were, what you call it, oh no, I'm looking for the word here. You had to have a special permit to buy a car,
Mhm.
and you couldn't buy too much of anything for a long time after the war. And everybody was sort of in the same boat. Nobody had much. We all had to walk to wherever we wanted to go. We all had to use our bike if we were lucky enough to get one. And from that time and up to now, especially in Norway, who has been in the fortunate situation with the oil and a very solid state economy, over time we have been so used to getting more, and then we compare with others much more. And at the same time, we got TV. And we had very little programs in Norway when I grew up, so there weren't that many programs, and there were no advertisement on TV. And later on came all these things telling us how we should look and what to do and look alike. And now I think the Kim Kardashian has put a mark on everybody's face among young girls these days, but they all try to have the same look.
Mhm.
So we have been pushed and pushed and pushed towards consumerism.
Yeah.
And if you look at that area, then you can never ever be enough, because there will always be someone having more. And we go out and we look for the answers outside in the next shopping mall, next supermarket, next wherever we can grab something and try to feel happy that way. But happiness comes from the inside. And then it's important to heal this I'm not good enough feeling first before you can even start doing something else.
And
And I think,
when you help your patients, and when you say they come out with a big smile on their face, and does it last? Do they
yeah,
not get up
apparently.
next day and think the same thoughts?
No, I have had the lucky chance to get in touch with some of my former clients over the years, and I know especially a boy who was very scared of flying.
Mhm.
He was sick to his stomach almost every day of the week they spent in Turkey, because he knew he had to go on board a plane to get home. And when they were talking about going back to Turkey the next summer, he refused. He didn't want to go turned out he was so scared of flying. And his mother came to me and wondered if I could do something for this boy to get him out of this. And we had to work 5 sessions, and he went around and around and around. But finally, in the last session, the real reason for not daring to fly was his fear of if the plane crashed and he was the only one who died, he would go alone up to heaven, and he didn't know anybody there. That was his biggest fear in life, to go to heaven alone all by himself, not knowing anyone. And then while we did the tapping on that fear he had, suddenly the smile broke out on his face, and he said, "But I do know someone. Grandfather is there, and my aunt is there already. I know someone in heaven. It's not dangerous for me to go to heaven. I won't be alone." And he was able to fly the next day, and I had taught him, because this is part of what I do, I always teach them how to do the tapping. Because whenever a stressor arises, the therapist is seldom near. And I use the tapping on myself when I get into triggers for my old issues. It has happened several times only, well, during the last year. There were triggers left in me that I had to treat. And I sat down at home and I cried for 2.5 hours doing the tapping, and after that it was all gone. And the problem I had with the special boss at that time, well, the problem disappeared, because 3 months later he wasn't working there anymore. He resigned and went to somewhere else. So it's kind of that kind of miracles that also can happen, that people who triggered you, they disappear, because you don't need them anymore to trigger anything. You have done your homework and they are not necessary anymore. What I find fascinating with the thought field therapy is that you don't need to have a special belief, really. You can be in your regular world, so to speak, and it works, and you can have your belief and it still works. So it's because we have energies in our bodies. That's how we can measure EEG and the EKG.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so the one is more magnetic field and the other is more electric field, and both two works together. And because we can sort of balance and normalize these fields via the same energy lines as acupuncture does, just we don't need the needles, we can just do the tapping. Yeah. And these stressors can appear in many situations. I have a girl I met when I worked at the library, where I also learned this tapping things. And I had contact with her for quite a long time. And one day she called me while I was living here in Oslo, and she was in another neighboring town. And she said, "Oh, Anne Grete, I'm so stressed. I'm going to a job interview, and I'm sittering with stress. I don't know what to say, what to do." So I asked her, "Hey, have you remembered to do your tapping?" And she said, "Oh, no, I have forgotten." So, okay, go to the bathroom and do some tapping for 5 minutes before you go in there to the interview and see what happens. And you call me later on. And she called me later on and she said, "You know what, Anne Grete? I did the tapping, and then I went to the interview, and my head was normal again. And you know what? I got the job." So
Great.
she was so happy.
Yeah.
And she did it by herself. So that has to do with empowering, self-empowering too.
Yes.
Yeah. Very important part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to experience this with people is what really makes me buzzing with. I want to get this more out to the world, because it's so important that we need to do some simple techniques just to keep us in balance, instead of it's so easy to say, "Oh, you can choose how you want to feel, you can choose between this and you can choose between that," but we all have blocks and mind viruses stopping us from doing it.
Yeah.
And then when stressors arise, we get on this roller coaster of cortisol and adrenaline and all these bad hormones that wreaks havoc with our body if we stay in it for too long. They're good to have if you're going to run away from a tiger, of course, but normally none of us do that.
Yeah,
But
some
to
stress is
be,
good, right? But not prolonged and not
no.
consistent.
So if we can be helped by this tapping to get out of this stressful condition, we will soon come over in the smiling condition, which give you the other hormones like dopamine and serotonin and all the other things, oxytocin, and there are four of them at least that is important.
Yeah.
So we can really make ourselves a better life by just learning a few techniques. And this guy who I learned it from, he learned it from the Callahans over in England. I think it was from England, but never mind. Roger Callahan started the TFT system,
Hmm.
and they built it out to be a very complicated diagnostic system, which is why some people derived EFT from that original system. My teacher, he was into sport or athlete psychology, so he changed it into a simplified TFT with advanced questioning techniques because he saw that when he applied his knowledge on top of this few tapping techniques that was more general, he could get into the real damage point, so to speak, very quickly. I use my system because that's what I learned. So there are so many ways, and I don't have when you add something together and you get the answer and then two lines under it and that's it.
Hmm.
There are so many ways to improve what you need to improve. I have found my way that I'm comfortable with. Other people have their ways. So you just have to find your way, what you feel is talking to you somehow.
Yes, I also agree with that because for some people, let's say breath work,
Yeah,
yeah, breathing works or meditation.
yeah,
So it's just a matter of actually exploring and trying different things and see what really works for you or what is easy for you to do because you don't want it
yeah.
to be complicated. You want it as soon
Mm,
as possible to get in a better state or get resilience or bounce back from stress.
yeah. And if you know that you have some difficult stuff, it is always easier to work with someone who can ask questions and bring you into the real place because that's very hard to do yourself.
Yeah.
TFT, as I know it, it works best when emotions are aroused. And if you are very upset coming home from a terrible encounter with someone, and you burst into crying, if you then can do the tapping, it works absolutely best
Oh,
than
okay.
if you just used your mind thinking about a problem. But of course, you can combine. And when you are done with the crying, then you can move into that improvement state. How would I want things to be? And then you can visualize how you want it to be while you do the tapping on that as well. So, you can mix and tricks and fix
So
all the way
yes, I
around.
think this is something that I also remember from tapping is that you actually bring the negative thought up
Around.
in your mind, and you sort of start feeling this discomfort, this emotion, right, before you
Mm-hmm,
start
yeah.
tapping. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
so what is the could you give an example or for someone who's never done it and who could maybe if they're triggered by something, let's say I don't know, let's say their partner says something that always triggers them and you go into like you either have to stop yourself or you know that you're going to say something to which
Mm.
you know what they're going to answer and pretty much you know where it's going to go, but you're still doing that and kind of
Mm-hmm.
stop yourself from doing that. Would you share a technique maybe?
Problem with that is that you are so into the situation there and then.
Hmm.
I have one example, but that has not to do with tapping really. It has to do with more consciousness around a problem or what. I work now and have done since 2013 with self-organized self-help groups where we try to share somehow we can communicate to somehow get more self-empowerment by getting more conscious of our feelings and where we are and how we can sort of, you know, try to, oh, I like the word again, try to mix the things together in a better way and maybe move in a different direction afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband, when I moved to Oslo with him, I discovered one day that he had stopped doing all the supplements and what he should have been doing to take care of his health. And I was ready to, attack him on it like we normally do. You idiot, you, why don't you do as I tell you, blah, 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 like the big mother down to the little child.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I did that, it would absolutely not work on this guy. So I managed to sort of seal my mouth shut, and then I applied the technique from my work and thought, why, what is going on here now? Why this feeling? What is my real feeling in this?
Yeah.
Am I
Yeah.
angry or what is it? And I realized just for taking that little seconds to think, hey, I'm scared. I'm scared of what will happen to him if he jumps off and don't do this.
Can,
And then
can I can I just acknowledge that? So at that particular moment, instead of jumping on him, you decided to go within, right?
I went within,
Yes.
yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What inside me am I really feeling here?
Yeah.
What's
Mm-hmm.
the real feeling I have? Not the anger, because very often anger comes out, but it hides the fear behind the anger.
Ah.
So, yeah. So from there on, I went out to him and I said, hey, I am really scared now because I don't understand why you jumped off this. I put it almost on the table between us, so to speak. And he had not given it much thought. He had just dropped off it like you very often do when you get tired of things. And he said, yeah, I did that. And he had to get 1 minute thinking himself. And then came the word that we could negotiate on. He put that on the table, and that was I needed a break.
Mm.
Just like in school, between classes, you need a break
Mm.
sometime.
Yeah.
And okay, so you need a break, and I am fearful. How can we get around this?
Mm-hmm.
And then we could decide what is a break to you? What is a break to me? How long does it last? How often does that break come? And he was used to working for a union, so he was a very good negotiator. I wasn't just as good, but I had my reasons. So we could meet in the middle. In the middle of the table, we met and we decided, okay, once a month we take a break. And then we just forget everything for that day and we do all the fun we want to do, and then we go back to the routines next day.
That's great because you actually took an emotion, something that you discovered within, and you discussed what it would mean to change
Mm.
that in the reality, in real world. So what kind of steps can be taken to take that inner
Mm.
into outer
Yeah.
step? And you actually discussed and
Yeah.
agreed upon.
And that, I think, was the day I learned firsthand what the theories at work really meant, what it was all about.
Mm.
Because we learn stuff at every work, and sometimes we just blabber it out because we learned what to say. But to put it inside and internalize it and practice in real life yourself is something else than just telling other people what to do and how to do it. You have to practice yourself first.
So you
And
mean
as a therapist, I've
you learned something as a therapist, and this was the time when you actually took a strategy and work on yourself, and now you understand how it works.
in
Understood.
a way
Yeah.
you can put it like that, but this method was not my therapy method. It was another method. So I just also want to show that it doesn't always have to be my therapies, but I learn from others. I learn from different places, and I put it all together.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so we all develop, and I have also used visualization and other things into other techniques into the tapping therapy sessions as well, because I have seen that it works repairing relations that went bad, like when you had a bad relation to a parent and they are now dead. How can we still repair it? And we can, and that's amazing
Interesting.
too. Hmm.
But well, how can you help someone on a cellular level or change cellular level? Is it a really profound work that includes nutrition and sleep? And I mean, it's a lot of I would say it's a lot of accountability on the client's part, because you can only tell them what to do, but you cannot do the work for them. They
Yeah.
actually need to want to change and do it for themselves.
Yeah, I sometimes say that for one thing, the cellular health coaching program is not my program. That's Dr. Gary Samuelson's program, and I am into to that system, and I am just finished my exams and the first part of it. Next is being certified as an assisting coach, where I will be helping students coming into that program the next round.
Hmm.
And after a certain amount of coaching the students, I might be a certified coach. So I'm in
Okay.
the middle of that.
Hmm.
But since I do have the nutrition from before and the thought field therapy, I can still do a lot of individual work. So for me, the client I need to work with is, well, sometimes I compare myself and my work to the work of a midwife. You have had babies, right? You know that when you are fully pregnant, it's not easy to do the birth alone, right?
Practically
And
impossible.
when I'm thinking of being pregnant here, it's in the quote marks, it's of course being pregnant with so many problems that you're about to burst and you don't know really where to start and how to go about it. Maybe you even have problems in your pregnancy and don't know really what to do, like a chronic kind of disease that you're struggling with or whatever it might be. And then, of course, the midwife cannot do the real labor for you. You
Mm.
have to do the pushing yourself, right? But the midwife will inspire you to get it done and sometimes kick your ass to get you moving and be there for you and with you along the road. And that's a coaching part, really, right?
I love the analogy. However, the problem here is that when you're pregnant, you have no choice. The baby's coming out. However, people with problems often let it fester for a long time, and they just walk
Yeah,
around, so to speak, pregnant, right?
yeah,
And often they choose not to.
yeah.
So, um, people, do you only help people who are ready, or they know what they need to get rid of these problems and become clear of them? Or do you, how do you go about that? Because with pregnancy,
Good
it's just like,
question.
there's no choice. Okay. Midwife
No,
is
you
needed.
know, in our life, my husband and I, there were no choice. We either had to do it or, the option was dreary enough that we didn't want to go that road.
Yeah.
So I have had breast cancer myself many years
Oh,
back
wow.
now in 1991. Then they cut off a breast, and the doctors were so busy telling me I could get another new breast by silicone or whatever. So don't worry about the breast. We can repair that. And I said, I'm not interested in the breast at the moment. I need to fix my life because I realize that I need to go back and fix things from my life that I have not done.
Wow.
And that's when I started my journey, so to speak, from being completely putting my head in the sand like the emu does, and not wanting to look around and see my part in everything, not yeah, all the things we do to escape the bad feelings we have. We try to escape it in so many ways, and for
Yeah, we
me, all of a
distract
sudden,
ourselves, yes,
yeah,
with everything, yes.
for me, this was a wake-up call, and
So
I
was
think
it
that
was it during that time when you mentioned that you were stressed with your business, when you owned your business?
No,
And no,
no, no.
no.
But I was stressed from my divorce and financial problems and other
Hmm.
problems. And I had not good relations with my parents, and I had been through terrible years when I went to school in my hometown. So, universe knocks on your door, and wake up call is very often that you have to do something, or you get an even worse kick in the ass next time. Yeah, sometimes when a turning point is coming, it's via a thought or a feeling.
Yeah.
Other times it comes via
A,
a
a,
person somehow. And I had seen the ad for this cellular health coaching course uh, through a group that I belong to on Facebook. But I thought, okay, that sounds interesting, but I wasn't exactly there on my mind at that time.
mhm.
I was quite empty after working on myself the year, and my husband had been very ill in February last year. So I was more like an empty vase, just wanting to sort of build my energy back up, but I wasn't there at that moment. So I let it pass, and then a friend calls me and say, "Hey, are you going to the course with Dr. Gary?" And I said, "Well, I saw there was something, but yeah, I'm not sure if that's something." "Oh, but you should do it because you know so much about these things." And okay, I said, I'll look into it.
Mhm.
And then I listened to a YouTube video that was put out there, and started to read a little bit more. And I thought, yes, of course I'm going to do this. Of course.
So that's from what you read. You read and you felt convinced.
Yeah, but if my friend had not called me
Yeah, that's
and
true.
told me and asked me directly, "Hey, aren't you going to do this?" I probably would have lost the possibility there and then. But when I started out, it turned out to be one of those walk the talk kind of courses where you have to do an assignment every week so that you experience yourself these changes. And from months or two into the course, I saw my energy and stamina and passion and everything came flooding back to me. And
Mm.
that's when I suddenly thought, hey, Anne Grete, you're not retiring in a couple of years. You're starting a new business, and you start now. Because now is the time to do all the tedious get ready kind of work and qualify here and learn more there and really build up yourself again from empty to full with good things instead of all the bad things. You know this theory about half full and half empty glass?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And everyone says, oh, you have to think of it at half full. And I say, maybe not. Maybe I need to throw out that other half first so I can fill it with completely new stuff. Because if you have dirty water in that glass and you fill it with clean water till it's full, doesn't work. Because the soil from or the bad things from the half full will interfere with the new water coming in.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's interesting. Yes.
empty the glass and fill it up again with new, not polluted stuff from your past. Build it up again anew. That's what I started to do. And here's where I am now.
Yeah,
So it's been quite a journey, I can tell you.
that's beautiful. I mean, all those things, all those elements coming together to bring you to where you are right now. And you mentioned that you have a lot of energy, a lot of vitality, and you really want to do it to help people. Um, is this something, because when I ask for people to answer to me about living on purpose or living with purpose or having this goal or some aspire to something, it's this is would you say that throughout your life you are now most connected to having this kind of purpose, or
What did you say now? To have.
uh, you are most connected with to a purpose, to something deeper, like your values, you align to your values and you are pursuing this profession, pursuing this coaching, as something that you feel meaning in life?
Yeah, but I think for me, doing what I'm doing, I think I had to go through all this, my own shit first, to
Yes.
be able to understand where other people are, because now I can much more relate to, okay, you are there now, okay, I've been there, I know how it looks like. I don't know how it looks like because it will always be different, of course, but some of it I know, and I know it's possible to move from there, so I have the confidence that, okay, we can help you move forward. And the purpose has been developing gradually, and especially what I find so important, and in any kind of work really that has to do with other people, is you have to clean out your own shit first before you want to help others to clean their shit, because otherwise you will only be projecting your stuff into their stuff.
Yeah, but as a human, I mean, we always go through something. Don't we
Oh
always have
yes,
difficulties and challenges? So it
that's why we
requires,
are here.
yeah,
so
yeah. So
so
does
you
it?
can't I don't think you can coach everyone, because the gap between you and the other must not be too big, because then you will have a too long bridge to cover, to
Okay.
connect.
Yeah,
So
yeah. You can be just a few steps ahead, right?
yeah, that's
You have
true.
to be close enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but there are 7 billion people here, and I could no way handle all those people on my own. That would be completely impossible. So I have found another analogy that I try to keep to. One of those lighthouses,
Mm-hmm.
the windows on top of the lighthouse where the light is going to shine through, those windows need to be clean, and that's what I mean with cleaning my life. I need to clean my life so that my light can shine through. And if some people come and feel attracted to my light, that might be because we have something to do together.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and that way I don't have to run around chasing people, because that is so far away from what I feel is the right way to work. I can shine my light, and if you feel connected to that light, you can come to me. And we can see then if we can work together.
Yes, yes, of course. It's impossible to shine your light for 7 billion people, right? But
No,
if
you
you
can't.
can do it for 10 or 15 or 20,
For the sailboat sailing your area, you can.
yes, and you are
You can help
exactly.
them find the course. Yeah,
Exactly. Or the boats that sailing from different countries but see your light, right? Because
yeah,
it
yeah.
resonates with them.
And
Yes.
thanks to COVID-19, really, the world has become more one than ever before, because we can all reach across borders in a completely different way than before.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes, this is one of the, if there is a positive side of COVID-19, right? We also started to appreciate each other and our families and our friends, right? And we
yes,
we realized what we've been taking for granted, the ability to hug a friend or
mm-hmm.
visit your parents every now and then. Yeah,
Yeah,
I haven't seen my mother in over a year, and
yeah,
you just start thinking how, wow, we've taken it all for granted.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this is again something, talking about Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, and all the other guys who are into the more energy kind of medicine. And they all emphasize that we have the choice every day to focus either on the negative or on the positive.
Mm-hmm.
And the law of attraction means that if you focus only on the negative side of COVID 19, you will attract even more negative things. It's like having a magnet that is, okay, you start out feeling negative, and okay, you lose your job, or you lose your possibility of school, or you lose everything, will come into to your life as negatives. If you manage to shift and see the possibilities in this new situation, because there are positives as well, if you do that, you raise your vibration and you will attract other stuff according to them. And I see that happens for me as well.
Mm. And if it's difficult, if you go into negative spiral, if you're too much experiencing too much fear, one of the techniques like tapping could help you,
Yeah,
right? Something that you
that's
could
what I
do.
hope to bring out, so that we don't have to stay in the negative longer than we have to, because sometimes of course things happens and you end up in some negative, but the more conscious you get, like I talked about with this um, how do I really feel, what is my fear in this, being conscious on what it is instead of lashing out in anger, feel the real feeling and say, hey, okay, this is how I feel, how can I turn this one around to something else, when was the last time I was happy, how did I feel then? And then you can, it's actually as easy as bringing out all the photographs like I did last winter when I was on a sick leave, I couldn't do much at work. I was empty, as I said.
Hmm.
And then I brought out pictures that had been laying in a box for years and
So
years, and
real,
I
real
never,
physical pictures.
real physical pictures like we did in those old
All
days.
day.
And I was looking at them and saying, hey, what an amazing life I've had. How incredibly many good moments in this life. And somehow, just looking at all those good memories made me feel better, from journeys I had been on, people I had met, memories from doing things, all that kind of things. And
Wow.
it immediately made me feel, oh, yeah, but my life isn't a mess, really. I have had a great life. I can do more of this.
I
So just by looking at those pictures, something shifted inside me.
well, I think this is a great idea for someone who may be experiencing a little bit of sadness or dark time right now. I think, yeah, wonderful idea to take out those pictures, even if, some of the younger people probably have them only in digital form, but
Yeah, it doesn't matter what form
doesn't
they
matter.
have.
Yes, just flip through them and see what you've been
Yeah,
through, what you've where you traveled, who you've met,
yeah,
what the fun
yeah.
times we had,
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can make a vision board out of it, and this is what I want more of in my life.
Yes, especially emotions. I think sometimes people think of vision boards as material things first and
It's not.
foremost. It's emotions also. You
It
could
is.
use those photographs to remind yourself, this is the
Mm-hmm.
emotion I want to spend more
Mm-hmm.
time in, and I want to
Yeah,
experience more this year of this particular emotion, or having this
yeah,
fun with my
yeah,
friends.
yeah,
Beautiful. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So,
what kind of coaching services do you offer? Can you quickly go
uh,
through?
I have decided on working one-on-one by now because I have full-time work, and I try to develop a course for the future, for more like train the trainer, so that they can take tapping into like youth groups and teach young people how they can handle their stressors, so they don't have to wait till they are 60 to heal their wounds like I had to
Mm,
somehow. And that is in the future. When I retire, I will build those courses and maybe start the work on them by now,
yeah.
when I have time. And I try to offer like 5 session thought field therapy, just working on old emotions that need to be healed,
Hmm.
relational stuff, traumas, many things. And I call it first aid kit for emotional stress and trauma, because you will learn
Okay.
the technique as well. And the point is that I don't want to take anything away from psychologists and psychiatrists, because they all serve their purpose. And important to say also with the other things, I don't heal any particular diagnosis, the kind of
Hmm.
disclaimer you need, because that's not what I do. I just try to build up yourself, you and your body, so that your body can work better, and that will also eventually help both the psychologist, the psychiatrist, and the doctors.
Yeah. Mm.
One example that fascinated me was when my teacher did a demonstration at the library, because he was coming there to give a speech,
Hmm.
and he had one from the audience come forward, and her fear was, she was screaming whenever she saw a mouse.
Okay.
She had a completely hysterical fear of mouse. And her husband confirmed, because he was there at the same time. And when he started the tapping, she could barely see for her inner eye a mouse in the other end of the room.
Hmm.
And he managed to let her have that mouse come closer and closer and closer. And in the end, she could, he did the tapping all the time then. And she could visualize it sitting on her knee in the end. And then he asked, what's the worst part of that mouse? And then comes this defining moment. It's the tail. Oh, it's not the tail. It's my life sister. I was 6 years and she threw worms at me. So
Oh.
all of a sudden it snapped. She wasn't afraid of mice. Mice wasn't the problem. The problem, the emotional issue, was that her sister had thrown worms at her and she had gotten hysterical at an age of 6, and her mind had twisted anything that looked like worms, like the tail of a mouse, into that episode.
Okay, interesting.
So I talked to, since I worked at the library and it was a small town, her husband came by some days later and asked, how does it go with your wife? Now she can go out and she can pick a mouse out of the dog cage and it's not a problem anymore.
Oh, wow. The root issue was addressed.
Yeah,
Connection.
the connection was made, and okay,
Wonderful.
no problem. She didn't like mice, but you don't have to like it, but you can bear it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to feel such strong aversion to them. Yeah.
Yeah. How we can turn, how our memories sort of get you into some sort of filter where you see everything through that filter. I had my beliefs about my childhood. That wasn't true at all. So afterwards, when I realized that I could move that filter away, I could see and remember things of the good things, not all the bad things anymore, but also all the good things came floating back.
Yeah. Yeah, our mind tends to distort information as we go through life. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So for yourself, what just wanted to ask a few last questions. What excites you like every morning when you get up? What are you excited about? What gets you out of bed in a good mood?
I do my meditation. That's one of the things, and I do affirmation either by Wayne Dyer or Sonia. What a minute! There is a Sonia out there doing the unsinkable. So she has a couple of morning and evening meditations. So I switch between her and Wayne Dyer's I Am my meditation. And I do like I am
affirmation.
how do I put? Yeah, I know, but I try to remember. I am joy. I am happiness. I am. I'm wanting a word now that disappeared for me. That's the problem with doing things in a second language. I am attracting, or I am allowing abundance and prosperity into my life, in every area of my life. Not just money-wise, not $10 million, but allowing abundance and prosperity into my life. And I am grateful for everything I have in my life. So I try to start the day with gratitude. And I have realized that from being sick and tired of my regular work, all this new energy also spills over into that job. So now I can see everything I do at my job also as a learning experience for where I can go later when I retire. Because I have to do courses and I have to do meetings on Zoom, and that is what I can use later, so I practice. So now I enjoy going to the School of Life every day.
Wonderful. And you're just studying, so
yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
In 10 years, I see myself as having great practice with a few clients every day who are willing to do the walk and talk. Not just the talk, but also the walk with me. And I have courses. I have this fakest course. I call it fakest.
Yeah.
Because we turn our fake beliefs into real beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
by using the TFT. So I want to have this course for train the trainers to teach as many as I can before I retire for good.
If you were to, if you could give one advice or something that you would want people do more in life, well, one of the things is, of course, attention and communication, but something else from your experience. If you wanted people to do more of something, what would that be? Be that reading, educating yourself, sleeping better, anything. Some
Apart from the 5 weeks tapping sessions and 3 months and 6 months other packages I have for those who need a real turnaround in their life, I would say look inside. Most of what you're looking for, you will find inside you.
Beautiful.
It's the most scary road, the most scary climb is climbing inside yourself. My learning curve this year has been steep as Himalaya, so no, I don't need to go there to climb Kilimanjaro, any of those mountains anymore. So
That's a great analogy. I love it. Yes.
I
You,
think we have been in a couple of decades, because it has been possible to travel all over the world and backpacking and all that, we have been looking for everything outside of ourselves.
yeah.
And we can combine those by also going inside. Some people have managed to combine those things, and it's amazing what you can do by then. I don't mean everybody is going to sit in their own room and look inside and stay there for 10 years. For heaven's sake, no. But your answers, you will always find them inside if you look. I think that's where the biggest secret is now.
Yes.
And
But it
then
takes
when
it,
you have,
it takes time and courage, right?
it takes time and courage, as you say, yes. And I think that when you do, you get a fantastic gift back. You
Yeah.
find yourself, and then you can make an impact on the world. So I think everyone who has that kind of gift also have an obligation to take it out as far as you can. And that's what I have decided to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
If you can improve people's life, there is,
Mm.
like you said, you are just keeping it away from people who need it, right?
Yeah, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's a moral issue somehow.
Well, thank you so much, Anne Grete. It was a pleasure for me to chat to you today, and I learned so much from you. And I am also very happy to. I believe I found a new friend in you, and you,
I hope so.
please, if you ever Tokyo visit me and look me up, and we'll stay
Mm.
connected.